1903 by three men. The one man was Fritz Berndorfer, an art lover, supporter of the secession and collector of Klimt paintings. His family was coming from a textile industry company, and he was very wealthy. The two others were the shooting stars of the Vienna modern movement, Hoffmann and Kolomoser, both from the secession. And they set up a business, a commercial enterprise called the Wiener Werkstätte, which was a registered company. And the idea was to design and to produce everything of daily life, from buildings to jewelry to clothes, everything what you need. And this was actually the first time in Vienna the possibility to create the total work of art, das Gesamtkunstwerk. Because you had the craftsmanship and the designer together in one company, and they started off with little flat to work, and already in 1905 they had a huge house with a lot of employees, and they created everything. And they had big commissions, like for instance the Stocklet Ballet, where they did the whole house, like a huge ballet, the garden, the cutlery, the carpets, everything. And thanks to the National Gallery of Victoria, who really undertook everything to get the most important pieces of the Wiener Werkstätte here, we could show you three examples of striking designs and of very important historical relevance. So please have a look here. This simple service was designed 1903 for the Stocklets. And it's one of the first steps to these radical forms which in the beginning of the Wiener Werkstätte did. And if you turn around, the next step, 1905, a silver service for the Wittgenstein, for Hermann Wittgenstein, the most important supporters of the Wiener Werkstätte. You have to imagine that, for instance, Karl Wittgenstein, the founder of the wealth of the Wittgenstein, paid for the secession building. And then if you turn around here, you have the silver service of the Salzer, again, the family branch from the Wittgensteins. To have those three silver service in the exhibition probably won't happen again. It's really the treasure and best of the best which we could bring over, thanks to the strong efforts of the National Gallery. We move on there just to show you perhaps a little sweetie which Hoffmann designed for him. And this piece is a present to the 50th birthday from the Wiener Werkstätte of Gustav Klimt. So all the pieces which you can see here has some historical relevance. Thank you. Patrick.
Okay. Yes, now Patrick Werkner, who is our great expert on textiles and fashion of the period, will talk about the skirt.
Well, we have now heard so much about this founding generation of the Vienna secession, especially Gustav Klimt. With this one piece of, with this one object, we move on to the next generation. We move on to young Oskar. This may be the moment to focus briefly on the role of the Vienna School for Arts and Crafts, the Imperial and Royal School for Arts and Crafts, where Klimt had been trained and where Hoffmann and Moser were, as young men, teachers. They were around in their late, they were appointed as professors. And of course, Oskar Kokoschka was a pupil there. And he fell in love with a fellow student called Lilith Lang. And it is the only occasion in which Oskar Kokoschka became a fashion designer, because he's of course known as a draftsman and as a painter, as one of the great figures of Austrian Expressionism, and this is the only skirt which has ever been designed, the only fashion object which has ever been designed by Kokoschka. And it's really a special occasion here at the National Gallery in Melbourne, because it has been only since few years in the possession of our university. We could acquire it a few years ago at an auction in Vienna, so you see for the very first time of of course also in Australia, this skirt. It has still this interest in design between black and white. There has been talked a lot about that already, but I think with Kokoschka we move on. It's beginning to get more expressive in a way. It's not so strictly ornamented in patterns or in cubes. It's beginning to become more, expressive is probably the word. It's also here presented in an array of objects which focus on a very important venue of Viennese modernism, which is the cabaret Fledermaus. Fledermaus means bat, and in 1907 Josef Hoffmann designed, together with fellow artists from the secession of the Wiener Berg. Paul Hasenbaum has just talked about that. This cabaret, and was designed by the same group of people who were the founders of the secession and also present here in the exhibition. And you see one of the chairs which was used in this cabaret Fledermaus as interior, and it is clear that the skirt was also worn by Lili, the adored of Kokoschka. Well, to finish the story, the two did not become a couple, and it was no happy ending there, but we're happy to have the skirt now.
Patrick, thank you very much indeed. I'm now going to invite everyone to go into the next room, which is Hoffmann and the Garia apartment, and the other great Klimt that has come to Melbourne, the portrait of Hermine Garia, loaned to us by the London National Gallery. And Francis Lindsay will talk about that. Francis.